we're going to move on to Frederick Rantakiro. He says, do you think Ancelotti could survive a trophyless season in any way, or is it written in the stars that Raul takes over if that happens?
It's a difficult question. I think it will all depend on the way Real Madrid and the season, and the general feelings towards the team. I think the consensus around the fan base would be that it would be a bit of a failure to lose the title against Barcelona, La Liga title. I'm talking about, even though obviously Barcelona brought some improvements from last season, all that, but the general consensus is that it will be a bit of a failure. Expecting anything from the Champions League is kind of unfair. So it will all depend on how the things develop. If you're asking me if Real Madrid go out in the semifinals, playing at their very best against the champion a few weeks later, and then lose the Liga title by, I don't know, by 2 points, I say that Ancelotti could survive another season. I think that he could, although it will be one of those situations where Florentino will probably have to think hard about it, because we know that obviously he doesn't like trophyless seasons, but I think that ultimately it will all depend on how the things develop in terms of the results over the next few months.
You know what's funny is that my initial reaction to the question is basically what you said. It depends on how it goes. Do you go down to the wire, play admirable football, get a few unlucky bounces, or do you go crashing out of the round of 16 and then like La Liga, Barca wins La Liga with 5 games to go or something? But the funny thing is that there are also examples to counter this. Like, we literally saw Carlo Ancelotti himself get eliminated in the Champions League semifinals a year after he won the trophy in, let's be honest, in a situation where it's not that they deserve to go through necessarily against Juventus, but the context was that that team was destroyed by injuries. And, that's the same famous run that Ramos had to play defensive midfielder against Atletico. Modric was not available, and the team was run into the ground after having a really good season up until that point. And he was fired at the end of the season.
And replaced by Benitez to make things worse.
Oh my God. That the only
like I could understand Ancelotti being fired the way Pellegrini got fired, bring in Jose Mourinho, quite arguably the world's best coach at the moment, and start a new chapter. But signing Benitez to replace Ancelotti back then didn't make any sense. But anyway,
the only reason I don't lose sleep over Benitez is because Zidane came in halfway through the season and saved everything, and then basically built a dynasty. But the Benitez coming in for Carlo was a disaster. But we've also seen the opposite of this, where managers win league titles and get sacked, like Capello and Del Bosque, because of either politics or because of the style of football. So I could see it going either way, but I will say the difference. Don't you think Ancelotti has a longer leash now than he did in 2015? Like, there's more credibility with him, like in terms of what he has in the bank with Florentino.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think it's related to the way Real Madrid, quote unquote, lost La Liga title back then in 2014. Obviously, it all ended with La Décima and that also great Champions Copa del Rey title against Barcelona with the famous Bale goal and all that. But I think there were a few reasons here and there to be a bit displeased about how Madrid lost that Liga title in 2014. Obviously, the team's back record from last season speaks for itself. Like, as great as 2014 was, last season was way better. Real Madrid performed way better than in 2014. So I think I would agree with you. Yeah, I think Ancelotti now has a longer leash than he had back then, and a better relationship with Florentino too, if you will. Yeah.
I also think, they'll probably spin it in a way that Carlo himself will be like, it's time for me to walk away. I think that's what would happen if that scenario arises. To circle this back to Raul, Frederick also says, what will happen with Raul if Ancelotti stays for another season?
Big question. I don't think Raul will want to get a chance anywhere because ultimately that would be risky for him too. The same way it was risky for Guti back in the day. You can either improve your resume and improve your reputation by going to another club, or you could be a disaster somewhere else, and all of a sudden um, you lose this reputation and this status of being the next coach for the first team, which Raul already has. I mean, Raul doesn't have to prove a single thing that he's already going to be the next coach for Real Madrid. So I think the cautious approach for him would be to stay with Castilla, even if that doesn't make much sense, because obviously it's not progress for him. But on the other hand, he's not taking any risks either. So I think the cautious approach for him, personally, if I were Raul, I would gladly stay another season with Castilla and see how things develop from there, because going to another club can be very risky, as it happened with Guti is the greatest example, I think.
The Guti thing is actually a minor what if. Like, what if Guti didn't go to Almeria and then Besiktas?
Yeah.
And he was there instead of Solari, for example.
Yeah.
Like, how would that have changed? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that team was just so underwhelming without Ronaldo at that time that it was going to be hard anyway, and he would have left the way Solari did, or maybe not. I don't know. But I was thinking about this because I always say, like, timing really matters. Is who's available at the time when the manager gets sacked or leaves, and that always dictates who you bring in. But don't you think, and because I was thinking a lot about this today, don't you think that Raul would put in a clause in his contract if he signs somewhere else that if, like, Real Madrid come knocking, then I can leave whoever I'm with?
Sure.
Because Ancelotti was, with Everton, at that time, right? And basically, he didn't have a clause, obviously, but basically he was like, "See you guys."
To me, it's not a matter of Raul being under contract. The risk situation I'm talking about is more of a matter of Raul's project somewhere else being a total failure, and all of a sudden Real Madrid forgetting all their ideas about signing Raul, about the contract security and his status from a contract perspective. I'm not worried at all. I'm completely and 100% certain that even if Raul is under contract somewhere else, if he's done enough in that other club, both Real Madrid and Raul will find a way to make it happen. It's more a matter of Raul's next team being a bit of a failure than anything else.
That, or like if someone great opens up all of a sudden and he's available instead of Raul, because Raul is, we see there's still a lot of unknowns and question marks about him because Castilla only tells us so much. All right, Scott Fisher says, "Happy Thanksgiving, gentlemen. Have you seen any players who previously were not on your radar who have caught your eye in these first few games?